I tell you, we're out here, we're all bundled up. It is cold out today, got the beanie on and everything. But you know, one of the tactics I like, one of my favorite things to do when the water's cooling down, is get on these 45-degree banks. You can see we got a lot of bank up ahead that's very similar. And what I like to do, I like to take what I call just a square lip or some kind of shallow diving crankbait. This is actually an Azuma Crank Z. But what I like to do is get on these banks and get at an angle where I'm about 20 foot off the bank, but I'm throwing to the shoreline at about a 45-degree angle. And as I'm throwing up here, I'm constantly making contact with the rocks and really moving that bait down through there. Now this is a great technique anytime you may have water going up and down or water really cooling down. What'll happen is these shad that are up shallow will start dying off. They'll get real frigid and they can't handle those dropping cooling temperatures the way a bass can. And the bass, they get on these rock type banks and take advantage of it. It's just really a great way to get bites when, you know, you would think with the water being cooling down and the air temperature being so cold, you can't catch them. But some of the best days I've had are days just like today. You know, one thing that happens is the sun's coming in and out on a day like today. The sun's starting to pop out a little bit more. You can even feel that on your boat. You know, the black part of the boat versus the whites, you can feel that heat that sun is really generating a lot of heat. And that's what happens up on these rocks. You know, if you look ahead here, we've got just a long shoreline of rocks, and that 1 or 2 degree temperature change from those rocks radiating that heat can really get those bass fired up. But also what happens with these rocks is the crayfish, they're immune to what's happening hot or cold. They're gonna stay up there in and around those rocks, and that's always a preferred food source of the largemouth bass. You know, this is one of those techniques that you'll see guys using at the highest levels of competition in big major tournaments. But this is also a technique that a beginning angler can get out and learn to do. You know, crankbait fishing is basically just casting your lure out there and reeling it in. The actual paddle on the lure does all the work for you. This is the paddle. Some people call it the bill. But that does all the work for you. You know, as you reel it in, it really swims and gives all that good action. So for the beginners out there that may be watching this video, get you some shallow running crankbaits. It's a great way to get on the bank, learn what they feel like, and really learn to detect those strikes. But it's also a dynamite tournament technique also. Man, did you see him running them? You'll see that in the film when you watch that. One just ran, a bass just ran right through those shad right there. Here's a cool shot on the depth finder. You can see we got a lot of bait fish here in and around the bottom coming in and out of the screen. And you know, we're fishing those right depths. You'll see they're from 4 to 6 foot. And that's the depths we're coming in with this crankbait. It's amazing how many shad we're catching just reeling down the bank, but look at the scale pattern and how that shad has a lot of olive green on his back. It really matches, you know, this color that we have in this Azuma crankbait is called olive oil. And even look at the size, how it matches up from being able to get those bass to strike. There's one. And this is just what we were talking about, you know, just getting right on a bank. And I'm gonna tell you, don't be afraid to get out when it's cold. You can have days like today. And a bass, one thing that makes a bass so catchable, in my opinion, is how territorial they are. You know, you can tell by looking at this fish, he's not really colored up. See how pale he is? That tells you that water temperature has really dropped. In a bass, you can take advantage of just how much of a predator they are. You know, this is a great lure, and I call them a lot of times just a reaction lure that you can get right in front of those fish and they run up there and strike and take advantage of being able to catch them. But you know what we've got, we're sitting out here in 6-7 foot of water, throwing at the bank, and I'm making contact all the way back. So I'll have my rod tip high on the beginning of that cast, and as that lure starts getting back toward the boat, you know, I'm dropping my rod, bringing it down some, and making contact with those rocks. And when that lure triggers off those rocks, they think it's a crayfish darting around or a shad that's down there not doing well because of the falling water temperatures, and boom, they'll strike it.